Big weekend of footy, Cage. Of course, let's talk to the Power first. They were up first, 1 point win over West Coast. Atrocious conditions though, Cage, but some of the school level was as bad as you'd ever see. Worst crowd ever for the Power, 14,000, Cage, 113. Round 10 against was their worst crowd when they had 16,694. They have struggled this year in a whole lot of areas, but the skills of the game, it was good that Port got the win, but probably other than the last 3 minutes of the game, Cage, you couldn't nearly watch it.
Well, they've been stiff. I think 4 of their 5 home games, it's thundered down with rain, so that hasn't helped their cause. But that game on Saturday night would be one of the worst games of football I think I've ever seen in my born natural. It was an absolute shocker. From Port's point of view, great to get the 4 points, but the crowd, tell you what, Port have got a real problem because they have, as a club, they have done every conceivable thing to try and get bums on seats, and it ain't happening. And I tell you what, both the SANFL and the AFL would not be happy about their crowds this year. It would be and is a real concern.
No doubt about it, Cage. You're on the money too. 20 games this year. The Power have played in 10 of the worst crowd attendances, 5 at home too.
Shocking.
They've got the lowest crowd attendance this year. I understand they're going to post a fairly big loss, Cage. Now, I'll ask you this. Could you see the AFL saying, well, we can't leave the licence with the SANFL anymore. They can't be expected to continue to carry the burden, and the AFL take the licence over?
Well, it's a possibility, but I don't think that would happen. Look, it is a possibility. It could happen, but I don't think it would. I think you'll find that both Port Adelaide and the SANFL and the AFL will work through this. Now, what they can do, I don't know, because as I said to you a moment ago, Phil, that they are some of the cheapest tickets in town. They've worked their bum off to get bums on seats. It hasn't happened. The only reason I can put forward now is the fact that Port supporters just don't like the style of footy they're playing. I've racked my brain about every other reason why people wouldn't go, and keeping in mind the weather's been terrible, but I can only assume now that amongst all the other reasons, they just don't like the style of game of footy they're playing.
Well, they can't blame Mark Williams. He's not there anymore, Cage. They blame him for everything else. He's gone at the moment, so I'll find someone else to blame on that. The Crows, 7-point win over Brisbane up there at the Gabba. First time since 2007 the boys have been able to get up at the Gabba, but Cage, that wasn't a pretty game either.
Well, it wasn't a pretty game, but it was a gutsy win by the Crows. You're right, it wasn't a pretty game. They were 2 down on the bench for the first 15 minutes when Knights went down. Having said that, had the Lions kick straight, which the Crows have done badly over the past few weeks, had the Lions kick straight early, they would have put an enormous amount of scoreboard pressure on Adelaide. Their kicking for goal was terrible, but it was a gutsy win in the end for Adelaide, considering they were 2 down on the bench.
Yeah, you're right, it was a gutsy one. I wonder what that does for the AFL statistics though, Cage, because if you're down 1 play, you've got a 7% chance of losing. Down 2, got a 12% chance of losing. So they're down by...
Who arrives at these figures?
Well, they were down by 15 points when Chris Knights went off with his hamstring. Then Bernie Vince goes out with his knee. Then they're up by 11 points at half-time, and they go on to win. So it makes you wonder. But it was down 2 players, a terrific win by the boys. Now, Cage...
Given the conditions, 25 degrees, which the boys wouldn't have been used to, so throwing that all on the mix, it was a gutsy win.
All right, now, the Power have got Richmond and Melbourne left to play, 2 games remaining.
Good night, Dick.
Right. The Crows have got Collingwood and St Kilda. They're level on the ladder. I said to you 2 months ago, whoever wins the showdown may finish above the other one this year.
You're probably right.
It's starting to look like that, isn't it?
You did. Look, I couldn't possibly see the Crows beating Collingwood at the MCG at the weekend. Like Knights is gone, Vince is gone, so they're stuffed in essence. And then I'm not convinced about St Kilda, and that may seem a silly thing to say, seeing that a big win, of course, over North Melbourne. I'm not convinced about St Kilda at the moment. Not totally convinced.
Riewoldt looked pretty good, Cage. Best I've seen him.
He did, but
7 goals.
I just think
a couple of screamers.
I just think they just lack a little bit of pace. St Kilda, I think that's their weakness. But hey, I've been wrong before.
All right, just quickly, Benny Cousins expected to announce tomorrow, Cage, that he's not going to go on.
Yeah, disappointing. I reckon Benny Cousins again at the weekend for Richmond. He was one of the
I agree. He was their best, I thought.
Look, given on what I've seen, performance-wise, I'm surprised if, in fact, Benny Cousins does do it tomorrow. I'm surprised he's calling it quits. Because, look, I guess he knows his body, but he's been playing good footy.
I agree with you, Cage.
Super footy.